But let me tell you a little bit about how we're going to finish the drywall, or how people finish drywall. There's an art to this, so if you use this, just be aware of that. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be working on finishing up some drywall. You can see we've already started bedding everything out. We're going to be sanding some of this down, finishing it up. You can see up in this top corner here, we've not got the corners completed, but that's it's a slow process. We'll get that done before long. I've decided to go ahead and leave this beam up here exposed. I'm going to go ahead and fill in where the screws are and stain that, and then let that just be an exposed wood feature. I think that'll be kind of a nice addition to the house. But let me tell you a little bit about how we're going to finish the drywall, or how people finish drywall. It's quite simple. There's really two different ways, or two different things that people use. You have this mesh tape. I don't know if you can see it. There's a mesh tape. It's sticky on one side. It just sticks right on the drywall. You just unroll it, stick it on your seams, and then you come back and you put your mud right over top of it, your joint compound, and then when that dries, you sand it, put your skim coat on, and you're done when you do it. The other thing is, people will use a paper tape. For paper tape, the process is similar, but not quite the same. You'll come in and you'll put a bed coat of mud in the joint. Like in this joint here, you just put a little bit of mud on the joint first. Then you take your tape and then you bed your tape all down this joint in the mud. And then you'd come back, smooth that out, and then cover that with a little bit more joint compound on top of that. Let that dry, do a light sanding, come back, skim that out, then do your finish sanding so you get a good finish on that. This is another extra step because you have to bed, put the tape, and then finish the mud on top of that. This is a little faster, but on the other hand, this tends to give a little bit of problem to some people because if it doesn't stick quite as good as this does, because it's in a wet mud, and if this bleeds through, comes through your drywall mud, then it's kind of a pain to get covered up because it'll show and it doesn't sand out as smooth. But it can be done, and like I said, there's an art to this. So if you use this, just be aware of that when you put it on, it's a little more difficult for the beginner to kind of use this. This is probably something the beginner might want to use, but I actually prefer using the paper tape in the corner, in the inside corners, and I'll show you why. If you look at the paper tape here, there's I don't know if you can see it on this finger. There's like a little score down the middle there, and that scoring, when you want to put it in the corner, you can actually take the tape and it folds really nice. Let's see if I can do this. But it folds really nice, and that way you get a good finish in your corner, and you'll bed that in, and you'll just put that in the corner, and you'll flatten it out with your knife, and then you get a good finish in your corners, so that you get a good flat and straight corner. There's a few tools that you'll need to do this. You'll need a small knife. This is a typical taping knife. It's a 6-inch knife. There are several different kinds on the market. This is a little bit more professional model. You'll notice that at the end it's got a nice little hard end on here. It's a metal end, and that's actually really useful if you get around a wall and you notice that there's a piece of where a screw was, or there's a little spot where the drywall's kind of got a little bump on it and it's sticking out. You can actually take this back into this knife here, and you can tap that, and it'll make a little indent. So when you finish your mud on top of that, it gets a little smooth, and it keeps you from having to carry around a hammer to do the same thing later on. But this is great for doing screws, nails, doing around these corners here, the outside corners, inside corners. For your first coat, it's great for that. A lot of people use them for these bed joints on the seams. I don't like to use them because your bed joint is actually 6 inches wide. The knife is 6 inches wide. You get off a little bit, it kind of, you pull too much mud out, it kind of creates a problem. But I'm not good enough to use that, so I use the wider knife. I've got my trusty 12-inch knife here. I also have a 14-inch knife that I use, but this is a 12-inch knife. You'll need one of these. You'll notice, I don't know if you probably can't see it, but there's a little bit of concave in it, not much. It's just enough so that when you pull out on your mud, you're not pulling all the mud out of the joint, you're kind of just feathering it out. But this is what you want to use to do your finishes and to put over top of all these butt joints here, or the seams. And then when you do your finishes on your corners here, you'll want to use this so you can get a good finish on those. The other tool you're going to need, I guess you don't really have to have it, but it's really useful, is an inside corner trowel. They make this is actually a little bit bigger one. They actually make them a little bit smaller than this. But what you'll do with this, once you bed your corners out with your 6-inch knife, you'll just take this and then you'll put it in just a little slight angle. You'll run it down, and it'll give you a nice finish in your corner, and gives you a really professional finish. And it's indispensable if you want to get a nice clean finish in your corners. The other thing that I recommend, it's a little pricey for somebody who's just going to be doing like a weekend project or like a one-off kind of thing, is a good stainless steel mud pan. If you get a 12-inch knife, make sure you get a pan that's for a 12-inch knife. If you have a 14-inch knife, make sure you get a pan that's for a 14-inch knife. You'll be sad if you get a 14-inch knife and a 12-inch pan, because it won't fit. Get you a good stainless steel one. They make some plastic ones that are good for the, just for like kind of the weekend warrior kind of thing, just doing some patches and some touch-up. But all the ones that are worth having, they'll have on the edge, they'll have a metal strip in here that gives you a good clean edge or good clean finish on your knife to get any trash off of the edge of your knife, so you're not putting that trash in your joints and on your finish when you're putting it on the wall. So that'll give you a good finish on that. So I'm not going to sit here and bore you too much with the tools, but that's the basic tools that you're going to need to put your drywall, or to finish the drywall. And well, let's just go ahead and get on with finishing some drywall. One thing I didn't mention is that on these butt joints where you don't have two factory edges coming together, anyway, let me back up a minute. On the sides of the drywall narrows just a little bit, so there's a little bit of concave there, so when you put the mud in, it finishes off smooth. On the ends of the drywall where you don't have that concave area, you can't really get a nice smooth finish because it's a concave. Well, I mean, you can, but it takes a little bit more effort, a little bit more work. You have to feather it out a lot wider. As you can see up here, this right here is just one of those joints where you have two ends of the drywall where they were cut and they are just butted together. So we're going to have to feather that out. Generally, it takes about 18 inches to 24 inches just to get a good feather, depending upon how well the drywall was butted together. So I'm going to be finishing that one, and you'll be seeing about how wide that goes out. Now what will happen with that joint is when it dries, we'll go ahead and sand it a little bit. It's a little bit thicker in the middle, but because we've spread it out over 2 feet, it will, it'll blend right in and you'll never see that joint. Very important to make sure all your nails and screws and stuff are recessed, otherwise it'll be a pain in the butt to finish. Just thought I'd throw that out.